Hi, and welcome to another episode of Alliance Insights. I'm Noelle Codispoti, head of the Risk and Insurance Research Academy. I'm here today with Krista Glenn, Executive Vice President and Chief Claims Officer with Westfield Specialty. Welcome, Krista.
Thank you, Noelle. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you too. We've been very lucky to have known each other, I think, here in this industry, 20 years maybe?
Oh, at least it's a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, as they say, since we were in high school. Well, I'm so happy that you're joining us. I mean, you've been one of these professionals, at least in my career, that I've really looked up to. And this topic in particular, I think, is one you're well versed to talk on. And we are here to talk about ethics and building trust and risk. How do you feel about that?
Great topic. Great
Yeah,
topic.
great
Let's
topic.
get into it.
So, to set the stage, I was recently reading an article that on Gallup's poll, the Honesty and Ethics poll from 2023. Apparently, insurance jobs don't get ranked in that poll every year. So the last time we were ranked was in 2023, and it said only 12% of Americans rate the ethical standards of insurance professionals as high or very high. Used car salesman was right below that, which is concerning. Nurses, I think, tops that list at about 80%, 75%. Why do you think that perception persists in this industry, especially when, as professionals, we believe that what we do is so integral to the well-being of Americans?
I would say in part because the plaintiff's bar is louder than we are. They're better funded than we are. They advertise and we don't. You can't drive down the highway in any city in America and not see the billboards. So, while we're here plugging along every day, doing our jobs with our heads down, doing what we do, and doing it very well, we're not out there making sure that people know about it. So I think that definitely has an impact on the perception for people who haven't had any touch points with insurance. Right. For the people who have had claims, for the homeowners who've had claims, for people who've had an auto claim, for people who've had a positive experience with the insurance industry, whether on the commercial or the personal line side, they probably have a different perception. But for people who haven't had a personal experience with the insurance industry, what they see out there is the noise that comes from the other side of the V. And they are organized and they are committed to their message. And I
Yeah.
think that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's interesting how noisy all of that can be and how much you can latch onto it, even if you've not needed the plaintiff's lawyers,
Hmm.
or know somebody that has. So, with that in mind, how is it that we define trust or you build trust if we don't have those touch points with individuals, because we still are trying to connect with them or create products for them
Hmm.
without them knowing us and seeing those billboards?
Well, I mean, there are industry groups out there. There are organizations out there that are trying to get our message out. So I think it's a slow roll, and it's not as loud as the plaintiff side is, certainly, but there are certainly people that are trying to get our message out there. But I think it happens sometimes claim over claim. When and that's where I am. I'm on the claim side, right? So that's where my personal experience is. So it does happen claim over claim, where you do reach people one over one. It does happen through some tort reform. It does happen if you can get your message out there for people to understand the negative impact that some of these verdicts can have, even if you're not impacted personally. You're not a plaintiff in the case, but your taxes are going up because of these verdicts. So I think there are groups, industry groups, and individuals that are starting to try to make an impact, but it's going to take some time, and it's going to take a while, and it's going to take money for us to get the message out there. But it also it's worth that time, and it's worth putting in the effort. But it also is important that when we do have touch points with people or with businesses, that we make sure that their experience is a positive one. Because whether it's a homeowner with their claim or whether it's a business with their claim, that their experience is positive, that their experience is one that when they're relaying it to the next person, that they have that experience they can talk about, and that helps too.
Yeah, I think the advocacy in our industry, certainly around this, but in a lot of areas, is one of the, I think, the great parts of how we all come together, even, when it's on talent or rules and regulations, and this advocacy certainly is when I think that the industry comes together really well on. Our industry groups are really second to none, I think, compared to other industries for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And we do so much for the common good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's so much that we do for whether it's people that have a reason to interact with us or not. I mean, there's so much that we do as an industry, whether it's when there's a cat loss, right? When we're out there, when we're handling people's claims, but there's also so much volunteerism that goes in. There's so much people that donate, whether it's the companies that donate or whether it's individuals that work at insurance companies that put money into donation that go towards helping people. So there's a lot of help that goes from insurance companies that people don't really hear a lot about. It would be good if we got a little bit more of that message out there, I think.
Do you want to shout out some of your favorites, or?
There's just so many. I'd be afraid to do that because I think right?
To leave somebody out, yeah. No, I was talking with some industry friends a few months ago for another event, and we did, they did start shouting some folks out, and then by the end we're like, oh my gosh, I forgot, this, because there really are so many, and with really great leadership. So I will take it. There are a lot of good ones. You can't find necessarily one that isn't going to be good for folks to be in. So how about when we're thinking about just the individuals too? I mean, the word ethics certainly seems to apply more to the individual at times. We can all come together and build that trust. But when you think about ethics, how do you think we define that now in this industry? Like, what does that look like from an individual perspective?
I think when you think individual, I think personally about honesty. I think, if you're an ethical person, you're an honest person. I think in many ways it's about treating others the way you want to be treated yourself. I think it's about making sure that you own your mistakes. I think it's about continuing to make sure that you're keeping track of your reputation, right? What you have in this industry is the same thing that you have in life. You only have your good word in your name. And so no matter what company you work for, your reputation is following you from company to company, wherever you go. So if you are not going to be an honest and ethical and trustworthy person, that's going to follow you. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing is supporting your good name. And that's what it means to me. And I think you want people to know that about you, right? That if you make a mistake, you own that mistake and you move on from it. But you don't act in a way where people are like, she's not a person of her word, It's not going to help you. That's what it means to me.
When I think of your good name and I think of the company that you work for, I certainly think of trust and honesty. How do you as a leader, or how does your organization create the culture of others? Because, sometimes it can feel like, I would guess it can feel like, what is the best decision to make here? How do you give folks the opportunity to make those ethical decisions in the type of culture that it's about paying something or not paying something?
I was actually talking to somebody about this today. When you come back to that, honesty and trustworthiness, and sometimes you make mistakes and owning your mistakes. And I was saying to somebody today that I honestly don't care if somebody makes a mistake every day. If somebody makes the same mistake 365 days in a row, we're going to have a problem. But if somebody makes a different mistake every day and we learn from that mistake and we move on from it, that's fine, because we're human and we're going to make mistakes. As long as we own our mistakes and we move on from it, we'll be fine, and we'll work on them together and everybody will learn from it and we'll be good. But we want to make sure that we're always operating from the perspective of we're trying to do the right thing. Mistakes are going to happen here and there. People are going to do something that they don't intend for it to be wrong, but it's wrong. And then we're going to move on. We're going to do the right thing. But we always intend to do the right thing. And that's what's important. And there are times where we're going to have disagreements. We think a claim is not covered and somebody thinks a claim is covered, and we're going to disagree about that.
Mhm.
But our intentions have to be good, right? Like we're working towards the right goals. And so it's not about that we're always gearing up for a fight, that our intentions are good, that our intentions are noble. I've said this in the past, and it may sound a little corny at first, but I do think that claims and insurance in general is a very noble business that is, particularly in claims. We didn't do anything to put somebody in a bad spot, but we're very much here to help them. Right? So we're trying to make a bad situation better. And it's a very noble business if you could help, whether it's an individual or a company, to get to a better place. Now, we don't always agree with everything along the way. And sometimes things are a little bit more gray than they are black and white. But if all of our intentions are good and all of our positions are in the right place, we'll get to the right place. But you have to support people. And if they make a mistake, you have to be there for them and say, okay, well, let's just get this sorted and get in the right place and get it back on the right path. And if people, particularly the people that work for you, see that you have their back, see that you're there for them when they've made a mistake, you're going to be okay. But if people feel like people that work with you and for you don't feel like you're supporting them when they're making a mistake, then that's when they're more incentivized to cover it up. And that's when you really get into play. So when you create a culture of honesty, it also includes that they see you acting in an honest and ethical way, and they see you supporting them when they've made a mistake, so that they feel empowered to always act in an honest and ethical way, even in light of things aren't always perfect.
Yeah, that transparency is key, whether you're the top manager, the folks in the middle, or even just starting out. To your point, one mistake can be talked about, can be learned from.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think it's something that I've always found valuable in my career too, is even outside of those things, is the transparency and what the organization has to offer, how we fit together, how decisions are made, even if they aren't the ones you advocated for or agreed with. Really somewhat off topic, but on topic. Years ago, I was at a hotel having lunch on a business trip, and I heard a guy next to me talking about insurance. You don't usually get to meet a lot of insurance professionals just randomly traveling. So I struck up a conversation with this guy. It turns out, and I won't say his name on here for fear it ends up in AI training, but it turned out he was one of the individuals at the heart of bid rigging back in 2004. So he worked at Marsh. Okay. And for those who didn't come into the industry until recently, please go out and look for information on it. It was a very good learning experience and entirely around ethics. And this guy, him and I got talking about it. And at the end of the conversation, he said to me, and there was nothing wrong with what I did. In fact, the charges against me were dropped. And I sat there thinking to myself, and then said to him, but so many, you might think that, and I'm surprised there was no remorse. So many individuals, people who worked at that company and other companies, clients, folks all over the place were impacted. And right. So if the practice itself, in his opinion, might not have been technically wrong, I would argue otherwise, the ethical decisions were certainly something to be accountable for. And I was, this was in 2016, right? So 12 years after everything happened, I was just so deeply concerned at the lack of remorse and accountability. That story has always stuck with me.
Well, even if you were in a situation where in the moment you didn't think you were doing anything wrong, couldn't you look back and say, with the benefit of hindsight,
12 years ago,
I could see something now that I can learn from? Yeah. Because that's another thing too, that sometimes in the heat of the moment, you may have felt good about what you were doing. You may have felt that it was okay. Sure. But can you not learn something with the benefit of hindsight and say, there might have been a better way to handle it? I mean, even in the heat of the moment, in a situation, whether it's in work or personal, where you're having a very difficult moment with somebody, difficult conversation, a difficult situation, or an argument, and you handle it in a certain way, can you not later go back and say, I could have handled that better?
Yeah.
So that's part of it too, is, and whether it's to your point, it's a borderline ethics, right?
Yeah.
Can we do better when we know better, right? Can we always
Exactly.
look at a way and say there was a better way to handle that? There's something I can learn from it. There's always a better way to approach a certain topic. And isn't that part of just learning and doing better over time? And as you were coming up in this industry, things that I did when I was, a claims specialist that at the time sounded like a great idea, I might look back now and be like, ooh,
Yeah.
maybe I wouldn't do that now, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of it too, is learning, and deciding what at the time might have been fine. Now, with the benefit of hindsight and experience, I would say there might be a better way to handle it, and how can I help other people to realize that and to learn from my mistakes, or where did I fail? Where can somebody else not have to fail because of
Yeah.
what I've learned from it?
Teachable moments. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that is a little concerning though.
It was, you know what? I was surprised
You
that
got away with
met the individual, but then also for the response, because
it.
I kind of would be out there saying I'm sorry to a lot more people but
Yeah. Yeah.
they never worked in insurance again. And a lot of good people who lost their jobs because of his decisions found their way
Mhm.
into great careers because they were the right people who learned
Mhm.
from mistakes or got caught up. So I always think of that
Yeah.
instead. So, but to this conversation, there's a lot of research that supports that the education in ethics certainly also helps. I
Mhm.
think that some of the other industries where they've really done the research is like accounting and law enforcement.
Mhm.
Um, and what I love about the continuing education requirements for folks who hold licenses is that there's, every state really requires continuing education in ethics
Mhm.
now. So super awesome. But is there, are these types of courses or learnings that your organization or others that you are seeing, how does education play into it, and not just those kind of like, I can't think of the word.
Sometimes the modules that you have to do online,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes those, I think it depends. I think sometimes the modules that you have to do online, especially if the ones you're doing online are the same year over year,
Yeah.
can sometimes feel a little bit silly. But I will say this. Oftentimes the repetitive nature of having to think about the thing over and over again is where the learning happens. The transparent nature of just having to think about it,
Yeah.
bringing the light on something, is what really, I think, is where the magic happens. There are studies out there that say when you have to sign your name on something, saying that what I am saying below is truly honest, and I have to sign my name on it, that is much more likely that it is honest if I have to actually physically sign my name on it. And to me, that's what those trainings are about, is the repetitive nature of having to think about those things is what really puts the spotlight on remembering why it's important.
Yeah.
I think that oftentimes when you have to do those learning modules, that they try to make it almost a little entertaining to
Yeah.
help people to get through it, and that's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Oftentimes, those are the things that make you remember, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that most. I have a law degree, and I have to do a couple of credits every year in ethics training, and I think that it's good, because I think that having to remember why it's important, having to put a little spotlight on it every year, having to test that I did it.
Yeah.
All those things is what helps you to remember why it's important, and reminds you why it's an important part of what we do. And anything that brings transparency and openness, and puts a spotlight on ethics and fairness is important for us to do. So, and it doesn't hurt you.
Yeah.
Anything that doesn't hurt you, that makes you a little better, is not a bad thing at all. So I do think that doing that kind of training is good. I think, to your point, there's plenty out there that says that it helps to bring up the level of of fairness and transparency and honesty, and why not do it? There's no reason not to. Oftentimes, if there's no reason not to, you just should. So I don't think there is a reason not to do it. And I think having to attest that you did it just makes you think about it a little bit. So we should do it.
Well, and I think that's what here at the Alliance, we certainly have some self-paced modules that folks can go in to do their continuing education, but we also host a series of 1 hour CE that we bring in folks who have worked in the industry. And, all of our education is the intent is for it to be practical. So from practitioners, teaching practitioners. And I think of all of our courses, I love all of our courses. I'll just say that. But all of our courses, I do think like the stories in that sense and being able to talk through scenarios and ethics make those some of our more popular courses, and especially for ethics for that reason. So yeah, cool. So wait, I want to ask because about AI and ethics.
Sure.
Because everything we see, to hear, touch is about AI, and so what does ethics mean in this space now, and what are you all seeing in the claim side or at your organization?
Well, there have been so many crazy AI related stories in the last few years. So to your point of, when they come in to do the ethics training, some of the crazy stories. So I'm sure you've heard about some of the lawyers that have submitted briefs to court and the AI have generated fake case law.
Yeah.
The first time I read that, I thought, how could that possibly have happened? That is so easy to prevent. How did you let that happen? So it was bad enough the first time it happened, but it has happened so many times since that I cannot believe that people are continuing to fall into the jackpot. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's just almost like a comedy show. How do people continue to let this happen to them? We all know that AI will tend to hallucinate. We know that this will happen. So why are we letting this happen to ourselves? So the fact that we know that this happens, we have to be so careful, right? So it's good prompting. It's making sure that we're very much controlling what we're allowing the AI to do. It's very much making sure that we're really controlling the AI, controlling what's going into the AI, controlling what's coming out. There is so much silliness, I think, out there about AI is going to take all our jobs. AI is going to take all the claim jobs. There's going to be no claim people. And not in my career. I am much older than Noelle, and I am be long retired before AI takes over the claim space. I'm not worried about it. There is so much need for human in the loop on AI, because the AI is a very good, somebody here that I work with calls AI her thought partner. It's great for bouncing ideas back and forth. Yeah. It's great for doing some limited amount of research. It's great for so much of that. It's not a replacement for human ideas. It's not a replacement for the actual human that needs to be in the loop. Mm-hmm. So there's so many good ways you can use AI. It's so productive. I will tell you a quick story. So when we first had access to AI tools here at Westfield, the person here who's our AI expert within claims, she asked me if I had tried it. And I said, I'm a really good writer. I don't need it. And she said, you are a good writer. You should try it. I said, I'm a really good writer. I'm very proud of what a good writer I am, and I don't need it. And she said, it's so much more than just writing. You should try it. And so one day I was trying to write something and I was struggling a little bit, and I thought, okay, whatever. And I was writing.
Pressure.
Fine. I put it into the AI and I did a very silly make this better prompt. And I put it into the AI and I sat there very arrogantly and I thought, it won't be better. And then I read it and I said, shoot, it's better. So I was irritated by that.
I bet, yeah.
I was very irritated. But after that incident, I started to use it more and I started to get better at prompting and I started to read more about AI and I started to attend webinars and I've been to a couple conferences where they've talked about it. And I've started to get much more invested in the process and more educated about the process. And I'm by far not the best person at AI here within our claims department. I have a couple of people within the department that are so good at helping the rest of us to use it. But what I've discovered is it's a little bit like anything else. What you put into it, you shall get out of it, right? So it's the amount of effort that you put into really understanding it. It's the amount of effort you put into using it, but it also is the amount of effort you put into using it appropriately.
Yeah.
So that's where the whole ethics piece comes into it for me is if you're going to be stupid and say, write a brief for me, and then you're not going to check it, then you kind of get what you deserve.
Yeah.
So there are going to be people that use it inappropriately. There are going to be people, you have to be careful about copyright, for instance. You're going to go out there and use a tool and you're going to get something back that potentially is going to take somebody else's work product. You're going to get in trouble for that. So you have to be careful how you use it. But I do think it's a very powerful tool, even for somebody like me who thinks you're such a great writer that can craft an email so well, they don't need to apparently I can use some help. So I do think it's very good. I think you can use it well, but I do think human in the loop is important. I do think that you have to be careful that you're not stealing somebody else's work and that you're not letting it hallucinate. You have to control those prompts. But if you use it appropriately, I think it can be powerful, but you can't be lazy. Just like anywhere else in life, don't be lazy, but don't be lazy with the AI either, because you can get yourself in a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Just like with anything else.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's where the ethics piece comes in. I can't even imagine the folks that submitted that brief. I mean, who they were representing or whatever. I mean, talk about violation of ethics and law.
Well, and the first time it happened, I almost felt badly for those lawyers. I almost felt like, oh my goodness, they just didn't know. They just didn't know. But the second time and the third time and the fourth time, well, those guys knew.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just lazy to me and sloppy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's silly to me.
Well, and I think too, like, I taught a course at Temple University last year, and it definitely had students who were adamantly opposed to AI, similar to the way you're sharing, because they were smart, right? They didn't need AI because they were smart. And I said, I get that. That's the way I felt about it too. I can do my own work and all that. And I said, but it will be the smart people who learn how to use AI the dumb people won't be able to hide. The people who are unethical won't be able to hide. They may get away with some things and they may not notice, but it's imperative that we all learn kind of how to use it. But I agree with you too. I don't think at least from the things I see it spit out sometimes, I'm like, how do people think this is taking anybody's job? Maybe some things that can be automated and more, but I'm like that.
I think it could make us maybe better, stronger, faster, but not replaced.
Yeah.
I just
not an insurance.
No, and I love when I can have that thought partner that Therese, who works here, talks about. I love that back and forth that I can do. I love I'm trying to write something and it's a little bit too long and I'd like it to be shorter, or it's just sounds a little too wishy-washy and I'd like it to be tighter. I like that it doesn't take me a half an hour. I can do it now. It took me 8 minutes. I like getting a little bit of time back. I like all those elements of it. I like that kind of part of it, but I don't think it doesn't mean that I don't need to exist, because somebody had to put the initial work product in there to make it, to give it a kickstart. So I don't think in my lifetime it takes over what we do. We have a great AI FNOL tool that really has helped us to accelerate the time it takes us from when we get our FNOL information until when we get it into our claim system. But it has not replaced our claims assistants. We still need them to help to vet the information to make sure it's correct. It just means that instead of it taking, hours for us to do something, we can do it in minutes. So they're much more efficient, but we have not had to, it's not that we don't need them. They're just more efficient. So efficiencies are great. Getting some time back is great.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that we don't need people anymore. So, and also I read something somewhere that I thought such a good analogy, and I wish I could give credit to whoever it was that came up with it. But at some point we had horses and buggies and people who shoot horses. And then when the cars came, the people who shoot horses were very stressed out about that because they didn't need to shoot horses anymore. Some of them learned to be mechanics. They still had jobs. And some of the people who didn't want to learn to be mechanics were in bad shape. Okay, well, those of us who want to learn to be mechanics will be fine. Yeah. So to your point of the kids in school who are like, I'm so smart, I just like shoeing horses. Well, not going to be so many horses around to shoe anymore, but if you want to learn to be a mechanic, you're going to be good. So that's the way I look at it. Just learn to use the tool and you're going to be better, stronger, faster.
Yeah.
You won't not exist. So
yeah, I totally agree. And I'm thinking as we're talking here, how many folks will listen to us say this? And the vast majority of insurance professionals who listen will agree with us. And there's going to be some people out there going, oh, nope, AI is coming for your job.
Yeah. Well, and just think about it. I mean, Noelle, I'm so old. When I started in insurance, we did not have email. We did not have voicemail. We barely had fax machines. And I am now operating in an environment with email and texting and everything else. And I learned. So we can all learn, and we'll all learn to do this. And, at some point, we won't even have email anymore. We'll just be doing something else. So everything will evolve. And to, bringing everything back to ethics, everything has to evolve within that ethical environment. And that's the thing that's important too, is that it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that, during COVID, a lot of people had a side hustle that they picked up. And so they're supposed to be working from home, doing their day job, but they were also doing something else. Yeah. To me, that's not okay. You had an obligation to do your job and not to be doing two jobs at once. That's an ethical violation. So what we don't want is somebody to have like, I'm going to program the AI to do my day job and I'm going to be doing something else, being an internet influencer on the side. Yeah. So there's things like that we have to watch out for. But at the same time, if you can do your job better, smarter, faster, let's do that. Let's use the tool to do that. Let's be more efficient. Let's make this easier on ourselves. Let's not do it to make it harder on ourselves. Let's make it easier on ourselves. Let's just do it better. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I love that. So it sounds like that's also maybe a final thought for the podcast, but I'll ask this because I did it. I did think we should prepare something is how can each professional, whether in sales, underwriting, claims, actuarial, make ethics a daily practice?
I thought a little bit about that, and I would say, do the right thing, tell the truth, be honest, admit your mistakes, ask for help. Yeah. I think that's one thing that I've struggled with, asking for help, admitting when you need the help. I think a lot of people, especially people who consider themselves high performing, I think women struggle with this, Noelle, maybe. We don't always ask for help. I think I said this earlier today, but I do believe this. The only thing that we really possess is our good name and our word. Consider that when you're making your decisions. So ask for help, be honest, be truthful, and make sure that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah,
that's it.
I agree.
Just that.
I hear that too. We always say lying about the bad thing is worse than the bad thing.
I agree. Yeah. I agree.
So, well, I am super psyched that we got to connect in this way. And grateful, like I said in the beginning, for all the influence you've had on my career, whether you've known that or not. But I've been really, really grateful for that over.
It has been my pleasure to know you, Noelle. I feel like I've known you forever. I feel like we've known each other forever. Yeah. Just forever.
So, well, thank you. And thank you all for joining us for another episode of Alliance Insights. For more information, check out, our LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube, and our website, riskeducation.org, for more information on our courses, more content, and those 1-hour webinar CE courses I mentioned earlier in this podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, and thank you for coming, Krista.
Thank you. Appreciate it.